And we are live. All right. If you've been playing along at home, welcome back to the Talking Average Fitness podcast. As always, and hopefully for forever, my name is Sam. I'm joined by my perpetually tall and apparently sweaty co-host here, Mr. Kevin McCarthy. Kevin, how are you today, sir?
I'm infinitely more tired than I was an hour ago. Um,
I think that means you did it right.
that I did do it right. And it's a good thing, cool moment with some members. For the just a little backstory for some of you guys. Uh, Took class essentially, had one person show up to the 9:30 class.
Yeah.
This isn't an everyday thing. Put the caveat out there, like not saying you're just free to take your own classes, but I'm coaching the 9:30.
Yeah.
We have a veteran member come into
Mm-hmm.
the gym who's
Not a
been
newbie.
not a newbie, been thrown down for a while. He knows the jam.
Mm-hmm.
He comes in, only person in class, and the workout is simple. And when I say simple, the workout was running wall balls and box jumps.
Yep.
There's not a whole lot of technical coaching, technical preventing people from snapping their shit
Right.
going on today.
Yep.
So whenever that happens, I always offer to, as long as the veteran member and all those scenarios that I just laid out are fulfilled, I'll offer, if you would like to not suffer alone, I will hop in with you. If you would like the best private training session of your life, I will also give that to you, and kind of leave it up to them. Because if they want to be like, hey, let's dial in my wall ball today, man, then sick. I'm going to make it so you can cycle 2 wall balls a second somehow. I don't know how,
Right.
but we're going to figure it out.
You got to pull the ball down. That's the secret.
That's it. You have to
Yes.
literally squat down, catch it in the bottom, and then stand back up. Have you tried that?
No.
It's
Why would I do that?
It's the most, like, if you want to cycle wall balls the fastest, I'm talking like, hey, we're doing a workout where it's like, 20 wall balls for the best open workout ever, 19 calorie row, 19 wall balls for 15 minutes. In that workout, if me and Sam are going head to head, because this son of a bitch can row faster than me, as I throw the ball, it's heading up towards the target. Right. It hits the target. I start squatting down. My hips get below parallel as I catch the ball, and you get like a mega bounce on the way up. And you can cycle like so fast. And does it make you infinitely more tired? As most things going faster do. Yes, it does.
Yeah.
But cool little thing you can sprinkle in there. Anyways, cool moment with some members after I'd hopped in with James, did the workout. It was terrible. It was kind of one of my own concoctions. 800-meter run, 50, 40, 30, 20, 10, wall ball box jump, and then an 800-meter run buyout. Get some. And some members were hanging around after the 8:30 class, and I finished up, and I'm like kind of, feeling sorry for myself, wobbling around. And they were like, oh, that was cool. You did the workout. And I was like, yeah, guys, I take my own medicine.
Yeah.
Like if I wouldn't ask you guys I wouldn't tell you guys to do something that I wouldn't do myself.
Yes.
And so I was like, unless I know that I have like a big game like the next day, or we're gonna have a rough practice on that night, then I might skip a leg heavy workout. If it's not super leg heavy, I'll do it. But if today's workout was Friday or Saturday and we got a big game Sunday, then I'm gonna be like, I'm gonna sit this one out, guys.
Yeah.
But it's like I take my own medicine, and anyone that does the coaching of the fitness, I recommend you do the same.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's
somewhat regularly.
Well, and it is, so one, it's good for you as a human being, right? Like,
yes.
Regardless of, so we talk about CrossFit a lot here, but like, regardless of your particular approach to fitness, whatever your brand of poison is, I want you to be a happy, healthy human being. I want you to do the thing that is going to push you toward being the best version of yourself. And I believe physical fitness is part of that. So yes, do that. But then also it lends a credibility to you as a professional when you say, this is what I do. And especially if you say, I do the same thing as you. There are instances, I've seen this in a lot of affiliates where, and this is totally off topic, but it's an important thing to discuss.
We'll get back there.
I've seen this in a lot of affiliates where the coaches, by dint of the fact that they are trying to achieve some competitive level of some kind, they are doing a different programming than the affiliate does.
Hmm.
And we talked a little bit about this when we talked with Nicole Considine about Open Gym. Like,
Yep.
members notice that. Like,
Hmm.
members pay attention to what coaches do. They pay attention.
So much more than you think.
Like, and almost to the point where, and this is like going back to coaching and cueing. Like, if I'm saying to people, all right, everybody, I want to see a full grip on the bar and I want to see those elbows all the way forward. And I want to make sure you get your chin nice and tucked down and we're going to squat. Like, everything I just did, for those of you who are not watching, was the opposite of what I said.
Yeah.
At least 50% of the people who are in my class are not going to listen to what I say. They're going to do what I
Yep.
do.
Do what you're doing. Yep.
Absolutely. So you,
100%.
from like a
And
coaching standpoint, you got to make sure those two line up.
yeah. And it's you as the coach, you set the standard. So if you like, if I didn't hop in to work out with James today,
Yeah.
I was taking the noon class.
Yes.
Like it's important for you as a coach to regularly take class because you set the standard. Not only is it cool that your members be like, oh, like Sam's doing the same thing I'm doing. That
Yes.
must mean like it's cool. But if they see if they're like Sam's telling me to do this and then he's going off doing his own little program,
Yeah.
why is what I'm doing not good enough for Sam? Why is that not? And like, whether they verbally express it or,
Yeah.
outwardly to you or just subconsciously think it to themselves, like that
Yep.
will affect people and will
Absolutely.
affect the community, the atmosphere, the culture at your gym.
Oh
Um,
God, so much.
and it affects it so much. But then also tying it into today's topic, if the members see you doing it right, they are more likely to do it right. And when I say do it right,
I was
I
going to say,
mean
how are we defining right there,
how are we
Kevin?
defining right? Doing it right means moving to the movement standard, to full range of motion about a joint, about all the joints, whatever joints are involved, full range of motion on those bitches. So, for example, today we're doing wall balls.
Right.
You best believe I'm getting below parallel on each rep
Yep.
and getting that ball up to smacking that 10-foot target on
Hitting that
each rep,
target. Yep.
hitting that target. I'm not shortening my range of motion because people are watching. Even if you don't think they're watching,
They're
they're
watching.
watching. Um,
Absolutely.
they
Even
they're
if they're not
making,
watching, like
yeah,
they see, even if they
they
don't,
see
they're
it.
not
Yeah,
deliberately noticing.
even through like a peripheral thing, it happens subconsciously. I'm doing
Yes.
wall balls next to Sam, and as I'm doing my wall ball, out of the side of my eye, I see him doing what could only be described as a deep push press. That registers in my head,
A
even if I
generous
don't.
push press.
Yeah, just even if I don't turn and say, "Hey Sam, what the hell?"
Yeah.
Like that registers in my head that
Yeah.
he's not squatting low enough. Well, if he's not squatting low enough, then it might, again, if Sam's the coach,
Yeah.
if Sam's not squatting low enough, it must not be that important for me to squat low enough, so I'm not
Oh,
going to stop squat low enough.
there we go.
And then you have just a whole bunch of wall ball push pressing bitches at your gym. And
Which,
again,
don't
you're
get me
taking
wrong,
into
like there's like you want an arm pump and a shoulder pump, like wall ball
oh
push press.
yeah. It'll also like because you can do them again faster, like your heart
Mhm.
rate's probably gonna. I mean, if you cycle push presses or shoulder overhead with a bar or dumbbells, like see ya.
Yep.
But like again, taking into account like if you've been coaching an affiliate for long enough, again, everything is the only answer in fitness is it depends. It's a cop out answer, but it's always right.
It really is.
Is like so I'm coaching people wall balling today. If there are members that I know can squat lower,
Mahal.
I will tell them to squat lower. I'm going to get on them, make them
Yeah.
squat lower. Like
Right.
as Denise says, you're like a hawk,
Yeah.
cruising around telling people like hit the standard. There are some members that have joint stuff going on. I'm,
Mm-hmm.
one of our members or two of our members rather, they're an older couple come to the gym. They're wonderful. They're somewhere in the, I'm not entirely sure how old they are. I'm going to
Don't say a number.
make it. Okay. Well, they're an elderly couple.
Okay. Even elderly like implies a certain thing. They're older than
Okay.
you.
Right. Older than me.
Okay.
They're just not able to get all the way down there. Like
Sure.
they're not touching their butt to the ground every time they squat. They're getting as low as they can. And I know how low they can go because we
Yep.
work on squat therapy stuff.
There you
And like
go.
maybe their medicine balls like up on a plate or two, which
Yeah.
is fine. Or like, a 10-pound plate or so. So they're not quite getting all the way down there because they're just, older joints
Mm-hmm.
as they are. But hold people to like their standard. If you've been coaching for a while, you know who can hit what range of motion.
Mm-hmm.
If you see someone cutting it short, let them know.
Yeah.
If there's someone that like, hey, they got a joint thing going on, like we got one of our members took class this morning. He's got like a reoccurring, like it will always be with him for the rest of his life knee issue,
Right.
where just like he can't flex his knee under
Mm.
load beyond a certain point. That's what he's been told by a medical professional.
Cool.
And so he just like, hey, I'm gonna get as low as I can, and it's like just above parallel. I'm like, sick man, you're doing what
Yeah.
you can. And so
Absolutely.
I hold him to his standard.
Yeah.
If I see him cutting that short a little bit, I'll be like, hey, you know what to do. Get down a little bit lower. So you don't have to break people, being like, if your butt doesn't touch the floor, then you're doing it wrong.
Right.
But, and there is a process. Some people, as they first start CrossFit, they're learning full range. They might just need to like body awareness and strength through full range of motion before they start
Mm-hmm.
crushing it.
Mm-hmm.
But
Absolutely.
the sooner you can get people to that range of motion, the sooner they can strengthen it, the sooner they can go forth and be awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Well,
full range of motion saves lives.
well, if it does, it absolutely does in
Mm-hmm.
many ways.
Not saying that, not
That's not
saying that
hyperbole.
lightly. Yeah,
Yeah.
no.
I I want to, so real quick before we dive down dive down this rabbit hole, I think it's interesting to talk about the word standard,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Oh yeah.
So we have definitions in CrossFit. We're, Greg Glassman, real big on definitions, mostly because there were none for a lot of things, and
Mm-hmm.
that's why we ended up with the definition of fitness that we ended up with,
Mm-hmm.
and because you got to be able to define your terms. And his famous story is, let's say we're going to go out and count butterflies. Well, the first thing we got to do is agree on what the hell a butterfly is. Because if you go out and you're counting monarchs and I go out and I'm counting spotted turtles, we're going to have a problem,
Mm-hmm.
right? So we got to know that we're looking for the same thing. We have to define our terms. That includes the term standard, right? And
Mm-hmm.
I remember working at an affiliate and doing some coaching development with the staff. And I
Mm-hmm.
said this exact same thing. I was like, we define terms here at CrossFit. Like, and I had 10 or 8 words on a board and they all had definitions. And I got to the word standard and I said, what's the definition for the word standard? And one of the responses that came back was one way of doing something. And I said,
Ooh.
and I said, no, because so we got to remember like where CrossFit came from, right? CrossFit comes from a world of measurable, observable, and repeatable, right?
Mm.
So the standard for the squat is beginning at full hip, knee, and ankle extension, or right, full knee and hip extension, hips
Mm-hmm.
descend back and down, hip crease, not
Yeah.
hip bone,
Hip
hip
crease.
crease, hip.
Where your fucking thigh piece meets your fucking torso piece.
Yes, that bit. It's
Yeah.
it's the thing that looks like this, where the hip crease descends below the knee. Which, if you've got like really muscular legs, sorry,
Yep.
bruh, you got to squat deeper.
Well, not even that. It's like because your hip crease doesn't change. It's where your quad piece meets your
But
torso
that's the
piece.
thing is if you've got bigger
If you've got big
quads,
quads, people are like think oh, I'm looking at like your femur
yeah,
parallel with the floor. So I
Superman
had
X-ray style.
yeah, exactly. They're like, well, it just looks above parallel because my quads are big. I'm like, no, it's because you're not fucking squatting low enough.
We're getting there. We're
You
getting there.
you've got big enough quads. You can stand up.
Kevin's roll fired up about this one.
Oh.
So so we have standards, right? So the standard is how the movement is supposed to be done, right? And even kind of like stepping back from CrossFit and like using movements,
Mhm.
standard is the level below which um, performance is unacceptable,
Ooh, I like that definition.
right?
Wow, I like that definition.
And
Because I was
so,
gonna go
go
ahead.
ahead.
I was gonna
Well,
say
just
that
like,
the person that was like a standard is the way of doing something. I was like, I think they're being real smart here, and it's like kind of right. It's like the because if you say if CrossFit standard for a squat is hip crease below the knee, but then I come out with Kevin Fit and I say my definition of squat or my standard is a 90-degree bend at the knee,
Yeah.
both could be considered a standard.
Dr. Joel Seedman would love you for that.
I don't know who that is. I don't really
He's
care
a
to know based on the fact that
he's
he
a
would love me for that.
he's a yokel.
Okay,
Um,
continue.
yes, you're right. Like if we say it's one way of doing something, then there are infinite ways of doing
Yeah.
something, and so we have no
Yep.
standards.
Right.
Which for some things might be fine. If you want something to be measurable, it's very bad
Yes.
because you have to have a way of saying, okay, like an inch can't be an infinite distance. An
Right.
inch is a fixed distance, and it's either more than an inch, or less than an inch, period.
Right.
And so for standards, make and like kind of shifting how we as coaches approach things, like the standard for the air squat is what it is. The standard for the wall ball is what it is. The standard for the jerk, the standard for the
Pick
front
a
squat.
movement.
Yeah, it doesn't
Yeah.
matter. Like now, does that mean that we become movement automatons and ignore the fact that we're dealing with living, breathing, feeling human beings in front of us? Absolutely not. Does it mean that you only focus on the beautiful snowflake human that is in front of you, that is perfectly unique in their own way, and not encourage them enthusiastically toward greater range of motion and greater adherence to that movement standard? Absolutely not. It's hard. You've got to walk a line as a coach.
Yep.
And so like a good example is like if you say to yourself, "Oh, that's just John or Jane and that's just how they squat."
Mm-hmm.
Maybe. How fucking hard have you tried? You know, cuz like it's not John or Jane's job to know where they are in space. That's why they hired a coach.
Mm-hmm.
It's your job as a coach to stand there, not 2 feet away where you have to look down at their hip crease, get back 10 feet or so, preferably sideways or like 45-degree angle, and watch them do a couple reps. Begin at the top, cool, and squat, hold the bottom. Like,
Mm-hmm.
wait, you know,
Yeah. Yeah. But like, hold them down there. Listen,
hold them.
people can, your members can take a lot more than you think they can, a lot more than they think they can.
For sure.
They can hold the bottom of an air squat or a PVC overhead squat. Like you can hold the bottom of that for 10 seconds.
Oh, yeah.
More, longer. But like in 10 seconds, you can see, did
Yes.
Joe or Jane get what I'm looking for?
Well, and you can see for Joe or Jane and for Sally
Yeah.
and Sam and, you know, Carrie and Kevin and, you know, a whole bunch of people in your class. 10 seconds is a lot of time. And especially if you train your eye, you can see a bunch of people at once.
Mm-hmm.
Now, here's another thing that I want to throw out there and I want to get your response, right?
Okay. All right. I'm
So
sitting.
we, good. Strap in.
Yeah.
So we have a standard, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
At some point,
Mm-hmm.
if we get far enough away, that person's capability, that human being's capability as a in exercising that particular movement, for all intents and purposes, qualifies them as an adaptive athlete.
Wow. What a statement.
And this is something
Yeah.
that I have heard from people inside of the coaching space.
Yeah.
So, like, for example, I have a human being. This human being has normative number of limbs and normative use of those limbs. So, for example, this person wasn't born absent of a fibula and tibia. They didn't have a tragic accident or something and lose a fibula tibia. They got both legs. Both legs are intact. They're normative length and function, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
As a brand new person, like day one of CrossFit, they're on doing on-ramp or foundations. And in day one, it is very common to talk about the air squat.
Hmm.
So we get them in, and we're going to talk about the air squat. As a coach, I talk about like what a squat looks like. I demonstrate a squat. We start to work through it. It becomes apparent to me that this human being, in their current capacity right now, doesn't mean it can't change in the future, but in their current
Hmm.
capacity right now, does not have the combination of flexibility, mobility, joint stability, and strength to achieve anything more than, let's say, a quarter squat. And when they start to go back, you can see the knees start to shake. It becomes difficult for this person to come on out. They've got to grab something or get a hand on someone to get them up out of that. At what point, and like this particular coach's assertion was, functionally, I'm dealing with an adaptive athlete at that point.
Okay.
And it was a very
Yeah.
interesting way of thinking of things.
Yeah. I think that is a very interesting way of thinking of things. I mean, my kind of like knee jerk response is like disagreeing with it, because I would say like I get what they're saying. Like in that moment, I
Yeah,
feel like I'm dealing
for
with an
that
adaptive
window of
athlete.
time.
Yeah, yeah. For that, I get what they're saying. I don't like the way that that's said. I don't like that kind of.
Sure,
I'm dealing with an adaptive athlete, because the adaptive community is an amazing community, but they unfortunately can't change
sure,
what they need to adapt for whatever not branch of adaptation, but you know what I'm saying, like which category of adaptive athlete they fall into,
right,
regardless of what that, like whatever that is. If they're an upper extremity adaptive athlete,
right.
they can't change the fact that that's going to be where they are for the remainder of their life. If
Yes,
you're a lower extremity adaptive athlete, you're a lower adaptive athlete for the remainder of you can't change
right.
that. You're gonna have to work around that. Whereas this person that just needs to build some motor control, spatial
Mm-hmm.
awareness,
Mm-hmm.
and strength through a range of motion,
Sure.
they will eventually get to the point where they're going to be able to move through a full range of motion
If
along
they're
with.
being coached well and they work
Right.
consistently. Yes.
Exactly. So as long as they're being coached well and work consistently, they will be able to improve that, whereas a true adaptive athlete can't. And
What? And of course, that even then, inside of the adaptive community, we're talking about a huge spectrum,
oh yeah, massively.
right?
um
The most
and
like maybe
yeah.
well, the most extreme version of which is like if you have an athlete who was born like uh, without a fibia tibia from below the knee, like there's no musculature or joint in the ankle, for example, to develop there, right?
Right.
So like the adaptation that can be garnered across the lifetime will never include that.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, and that's why it's the I mean, I've never programmed an adaptive competition, but I can only imagine how difficult it is for the people at like Wadapalooza, Granite Games, the
Yeah.
CrossFit Games, to program adaptive divisions.
Mm-hmm.
Because I know from trying to program we were going to host a masters competition in May of 2020 at CrossFit One Nation, and I'm sure you can all tell how that went.
Yeah.
But myself and Nicole were programming the event, and we would go back and forth, argue with each other.
Yep.
This loading's appropriate. No, it's not. Well, if we're going to do this loading, then this movement's appropriate. No, it's not. Well, we're looking for like, because you have to have like we're doing divisions. It was like I think we were doing like 35 to 45, 45 to 55, and then 55 plus. We're gonna do like three divisions.
Yeah.
And so it was just like trying to figure out loadings and rep ranges and rep schemes and gymnastics movements that were appropriate for each division. And
Yep.
it's like it's tough,
It's really
because
hard.
you're like it's super hard. And
Yeah.
so you extrapolate that out to, as you were saying, a whole spectrum of
Yeah.
adaptive athletes. The range of motion standard is different.
Yep.
The loadings, rep schemes, movement patterns that can be done is different. And you're trying to it's broken up into relatively broad categories, we'll say,
Mm-hmm.
that multiple people of very nuanced adaptive capacities kind of fit
Yeah.
into those categories. So
Yeah.
you're trying to do a catch-all where it's like, okay, it's challenging for everybody, but doesn't like exclude anybody that might be in this category. And that's super hard.
So incredibly difficult. That's
So
and I remember watching Kevin Ogar. I was
yeah.
at the Phoenix. It was my first one of my first weekends, my first full weeks at the Phoenix when I was their head coach down in Boston, and they had ATA come in and run an ATA cert, which is the adaptive training cert, and it was wild to
Mm,
watch them take Kevin Ogar, incredible story, sitting there in a wheelchair talking about like the things that he's got to have in his mind when he's doing certain movements that people who don't have his experience would never think about, you know,
mhm.
and like the repercussions of not doing some things from a safety perspective. It was a wild course and highly recommend it. Oh, hey fly, shoot
Got
fly,
like a
don't bother me.
little fly in here.
Um, well, so we're 25 minutes in and not at all really on
Mm,
our topic. We did have a topic, and the topic
yeah.
was range of motion, right?
Mm.
Range of motion
Movement
standard.
standards.
Yeah, movement
Yeah.
standards, range of motion. And it's interesting. Andrew Hiller highlighted a bunch of this during the semifinals competitions that we've seen previously.
Hmm.
Range of motion is an issue. Um,
It's it's a massive. If you're not, even if you're not a fan of Andrew Hiller,
yeah,
I think it's like someone like him was needed because it was starting to slip to a point of it doesn't fucking matter.
yeah,
And it's like, well, it does matter if you want this to be a legitimate sport.
yeah,
It does.
yeah,
Because otherwise you've got one person squatting fully below parallel and
yeah,
then three other people that aren't.
yeah,
Odds are the people that aren't are going to win because it's
yeah,
faster. It's easier. You accumulate less fatigue, the less range of motion you're going.
yeah.
So
Great examples. There are some very very clearly highlighted. So there's a lot of things at play here, and maybe the place to start this discussion is like we can talk about sterile clinical CrossFit and how to do certain movements in a vacuum all day long. We have already highlighted the difficulties in taking those sterile clinical standards and applying them to real human beings. You might have bony blocks, you might have musculotendinous issues or limitations. You might have joint instabilities. You could have full joint replacements at varying levels of rehab. And so, any or all of those, a combination of those, could affect a person's ability to execute a movement, quote unquote, to standard.
mhm.
And inside of the affiliate, this is why relationships between coaches and clients are so important, is because we need to know these people. We need to know them and what their individual natures are, what they do for their jobs. Are they sleeping well at night? Like all of those things,
Mhm.
so that we can give them, and I hate this phrase for the love of God, but so we can give them the best hour of their day. Right. And I, I love it. I love it as an original Glassman phrase. I like it less as a Jason Ackerman, Jason Fernandez phrase.
Uh,
Um, so
yeah. I
yeah.
get you. I get you.
So once we start adding money and really money, it all comes down to money. Once we start
It
adding
really
money,
does.
yeah.
Fame, popularity
But all of that, all of those are like mechanisms that people
to
can
get to
pull.
money. Yeah.
Ideally,
To get
yeah.
to get
Like
money. Well, yeah, because that's where like a lot of companies are like, hey, especially in today's whatever of social media, hey,
yeah,
such and such is the CrossFit athlete. They've garnered through exposure at semifinals in the games. They've garnered 2 million Instagram followers. So that's 2 million potential customers.
yeah,
We're gonna pay you to post 2 times a week about our product.
absolutely, right.
So,
A
you
lot
know,
of money to be made, which means there's a lot of incentive
mm,
for individuals to make it to a certain point in the competitive season.
yep.
And some of these people are not at all competitive anymore. And some of them are still very competitive. And some of the stuff that was highlighted was like, they're doing Linda. By the way, they're doing dumbbell Linda. And if you've never done Linda, like, go do Linda, come back and tell me how awful it was. And now I'm going to tell you to do the same thing a week later with dumbbells, and you're going to tell me to fuck off.
Not only with dumbbells, wasn't it like 90, 70? like 90-pound dumbbells for the dudes, 70 for the ladies, because
Probably.
that would equate to their roughly to the barbell loading. Because the in 2018 at regionals they did uh normal Linda, and the bench press for the guys was 195, and the bench press for the ladies was 145. So 90-70 would, I think, was the loading for the dumbbells, and I'm sitting there, I'm like, oh, like
90,
90.
90 60.
Okay,
10,
so
10 down to 1 of so gross. 10 down to 1 of oh god. So it's 10 down to 1 of deadlifts, dumbbell bench press and squat clean, okay?
yeah, what was the deadlift and squat clean at?
So the deadlift
I
weight was
forget.
295 for guys, 220 for ladies.
Okay.
The dumbbell weight was 90-60, so that's each hand, FYI. And the squat clean weight was 145, 105, which is gross.
Oh, well, it's one of those things where, and it's a disgusting workout. The thing is,
Yep.
the dumbbell bench press is gonna fuck your shit up for the rest of the weekend.
For the rest of your
It's
life.
it's gonna ruin your day.
Yeah.
Because if you've never done a bunch of dumbbell bench with heavier dumbbells,
Yeah.
like stabilizing those things, the hardest part is like when you lean back onto the bench, trying to like get them up
Oh
without
yeah.
ripping one of your shoulders off
Yep.
is like a task in itself. Then you have to bench that bitch. It
Right.
like it's so hard, and the stabilization is wild. Um, but the thing that I kind of that workout absolutely screws any athlete that's on the smaller end of the spectrum. If you're a beefy boy,
Yeah.
or or lady, you're on the larger side, you're thick, you're muscular, you're strong, better with a
Right.
barbell, those athletes, they can smash Linda. And the RX loadings for semifinals, I also love that they used Mal on all their promotional stuff,
I
even though
know.
she's not competing. That fucking sent me. I was like, what
Well,
a disrespect on that.
they
I'm
they
sorry, but
already they already had it made.
I don't care. It takes you like you're telling me that like a bunch of tech people that are way smarter than me and get paid way more than me can't change that.
I don't know.
Okay,
Uh
well, I would hope. I understand they already had it pre-made. I don't think it would have taken. They had plenty of notice.
right.
The CrossFit Games Instagram and social media pages reposted Mal's thing saying that she was pulling out, saying thank you for last season. Wish you well. Hope everything gets better. So it's like
Right.
the CrossFit media humans were well aware of this, but then in the like month leading up to decided not to change any of their promotional graphics for semifinals.
Right.
I thought that was disrespectful to Mal. I felt bad, but
Yeah.
anyways, that Linda workout was built to wreck any athlete that is on the smaller side,
That's
because
adaptive
that would be
semifinals.
if you are a 190-pound male or 140-pound female,
Yeah.
the loadings are pretty much what would be considered an RX Linda based on the
Yeah.
body weight breakdown. If you're heavier than that, it's now a light Linda. If you're
Mm-hmm.
lighter than that, you are RX plussing Linda. And again, as Sam said, go try Linda. In 2 days when you finish, get back to us. Tell us how it went.
Right.
Tell us which feelings were hurt and why. Oh, what are we looking at?
Well, so what I'm doing, so for those of you, Google hacking is a thing, and what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to Google hack, right? So CrossFit is historically pretty bad about site security, and so they will just put stuff on their domain because they own the domain for CrossFit.com, right? But they will do a
Right.
bad job of securing it off and sequestering it. So every once in a while, you can just Google hack, which is very, very carefully structuring a Google query to find the thing that you want. And what I'm looking for is, so like when we were here, so this thing is, yay, dumbbell Linda, movement standards. Movement standards will be briefed on site.
Mm-hmm.
That's fucking useless, right? I want to see what the movement standards were. So what
I
I'm
think.
look, go ahead.
Go ahead. I think from like from at least from what I was watching, how well the standard was upheld, different conversation entirely. I I I think the standard was one of the heads of like as you're benching, right? You have
Yes.
head of the dumbbell here, head of the dumbbell on the outside of your arm.
Yeah.
The head of the dumbbell on the inside had to touch your chest
That was my understanding as well.
before you could press back up. So
Yeah.
similar to a bench press bar having to touch your chest. Um, yeah. Again, how well it was upheld. If you want to look at how kind of shitty judging and there are judges in the CrossFit space that do an amazing job. The seminar staff folk that are at the games, they do an amazing job. Their seminar staff, they're the best in the world.
Right.
But there is part of it. Again, it's a sport. People make mistakes.
Yeah.
Mistakes are going to happen. Bad calls are going to happen. It's part of it. Watch any sport. I guarantee you've seen referees make mistakes.
Right.
So that's
Well,
not.
and
But go ahead.
well, and I was going to say, so like at the games,
Yeah.
almost the entirety of the judging staff are CrossFit seminar staff.
Yep.
Everything short of that, they're volunteers.
Volunteers. Mm-hmm.
And like,
So
thank you,
that's
volunteers.
yeah.
But
100% for volunteering your time.
yeah, but like
I've
you're taking regular Joes and Janes
yeah.
who may or may not be coaches. They're typically coaches. But again,
Yeah.
we've talked about the wide range in, let's just say, ability
Mm-hmm.
in technical coaching.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you imagine that vast pool from which you are going to pull individuals to apply standards, like depending on the style of coaching you do, you may have zero fucking experience teaching, seeing, and correcting, right? And
Mm-hmm.
while you don't have to teach a professional athlete and correct their movement, in fact, you're explicitly like told not to do that,
Yeah.
you still have to see. And if your
Yeah.
eye is not practiced at seeing, the likelihood that you will be able to perform at an A plus level with a professional athlete standing in front of you in real time, in front of 1,000 people or more, right, is
Mm-hmm.
almost zero. So, like, that is a major hole in what we've got
The
going on and a major part of this discussion.
the other element to that is, as Sam said, you're taking someone from a vast pool of coaching ability,
Yep.
chucking them on the floor, putting them under pressure.
Yep.
Guess what? Athlete in your lane's Matt Fraser. You gonna no rep him?
Right?
Probably fucking not. You follow him on Instagram. You're a fan of him. You like it, and again, it's just a human thing.
Yeah.
You're like, you're assigned lane 6. Sick. Who's my athlete? Danny Spiegel. Fuck. All right. Like, she's moving real fast. Looks good to me. Keep it
Right.
going.
Yeah.
Like it, because you're taking a normal human that, and again, if you ever taken a seminar, a CrossFit seminar, the seminar staff members are the most wonderful humans. They also don't give a fuck about your feelings.
Yeah.
They're like, this is what it is. This is the deal. We're going to help you get great at it. And like, that's it. No excuses, no bullshit, nothing. So believe you me, if Danny Spiegel is probably 5 times the size of Denise Thomas,
Yes.
Denise would call Danny, not to like throw any shade at Danny or anything like that. She's
In
a
no
great
way,
at,
shape, or
but
form. Yes.
no, but like just as an example, you know, she rocks up. Denise would stand toe to toe and be like, no rep.
Yeah.
Like
For sure.
Matt Fraser rocks up, no rep, bitch. Like
Well,
just shit.
My favorite story. My favorite story. So this is, you and I know this person, Greg Martino,
yeah.
right?
I know the moment you're going to talk about here too. I know what it is.
So it's the
made
very
Lachlan so
beginning
mad.
of the, I think it was like the 2016 or 2017
games.
2017
games.
games is the beginning of the movie, right?
Mhm.
It's they show footage from the final event, and it's Tia and Kara Saunders, and it's
Yep.
that like front
The
rack
overhead. They had double kettlebell.
oh yeah,
lunge
double
finish.
kettlebell overhead. And so the judge that is standing in front of Tia Claire Toomey at the end of the event, where it's like fucking photo finish between these two, is
Yep.
Greg Martino from
Good old Greg.
from the worst warm-ups ever from CrossFit One Nation.
The best,
And-
worst warm-ups ever.
Yes. So CrossFit seminar staff, legit dude, great coach, but like
Love Greg.
you can watch it. Go back, watch
Yeah.
that thing. He's looking right at her fucking elbow And it's
Yeah,
like, I don't
as
give a
she's
shit
crossing
who
the
you
line.
are, right?
Yeah,
He's
because
like,
you have
elbow,
to
elbow, elbow. Oh,
because
no lockout, no lockout, no rep.
you had to have both feet cross the like finish your lunge,
Yep.
stand up, so like hips, knees, ankles at
Yep.
full extension with both arms locked out. Tia took her last step, and as her knee hit the floor, elbow softened just a little bit.
Yeah.
She goes to stand, and it's like if she can lock that back out, then all's good in the hood.
Yes.
But she starts losing it. And as it comes down and the kettlebell touches her shoulder, you watch good old Greg, no rep, and pull it,
Both
tell her to come
arms.
back. Yeah, tell her to come back the 5 meters or whatever it was,
Right?
that like to the previous line.
Yeah.
And that's when Kara was coming up on her. And so like, but Tia couldn't see her. It was a whole
Yeah.
thing. And oh my gosh. So Lachlan being an Aussie and like, what, like cheering for Tia, when he saw Greg, he's like, fuck it out, Greg. Like, he was so angry.
But he
Oh,
gets it,
but no,
right?
but he had to do it. Like that
Yes.
was
For
a
sure.
no rep. And it's like, and that's you're looking at the time prior to the end of that event when Tia won the games.
Yeah.
She was the second fittest woman on earth. So
Yeah.
still kind of a big deal. I think she was two-time because she got 15 and 16 came second. And so
Yes.
you're looking at the two-time second place finisher at the CrossFit Games in your lane in the final event when she's like it's like a 5-point spread between her and Kara, and it's coming out of the last event, and you're judging.
Exactly.
Time to strap your big boy pants on because you
Right.
got to make the calls.
Yeah.
And 100%, Greg made the right call, and that's
Yes.
so hard to do. If you put that on a normal person
Mm.
who follows all these athletes, you idolize them, you're fans of their careers, their movement,
Their
their
supplement
personality,
lines.
their personality, supplement line, clothing line,
Yeah.
shoe line, whatever it is, you're a fan of them as they are.
Yeah.
That person rocks up in your lane, and you're telling me there's not a chance you're going to let some stuff slide because
Yeah.
you're just in awe that this person's in your lane and you're standing 3 feet away from Rich Froning.
Absolutely. Like,
You know?
it takes a tremendously. Greg is a consummate professional. He's very
Yep.
good at what he does. There's a reason that
100%.
staff get picked for, events like this. But I'm going to make a general statement. I don't think I'm wrong. I have nothing to prove that I'm right, but I don't think I'm wrong.
Tell
I
you if you're
think
wrong.
I think that there are plenty of athletes who knowingly and willingly take advantage of the fact that the person who is judging them might have a little bit like of fan blindness,
Mm-hmm.
and they, because they are a competitive athlete and they're not looking perhaps to explicitly disregard the movement standards, but they are looking for every single competitive advantage because for them
100%.
every single part of their year is about getting to the games. And only
Mm-hmm.
for a small subset of people who are perennial games attendees is it about doing well. And for an even smaller subset of that, is it about winning at the games?
Mm-hmm.
Like for
Yeah.
some people, they just want to punch that ticket and they get to say they're a CrossFit Games athlete.
Yep. And that's why you see people show up once and then never go back because it's so fucking hard to get
It's
there and
so
stay there.
hard.
It's so hard.
You go,
To
you
get
get your
there and stay
placard,
there.
you get
And
your
I mean,
you get your vest with your name tag.
you get your vest and name tag, you get your CrossFit Games jerseys, like the different colors, whatever color scheme happened to be that year. You get your shorts
Yep.
and shoes and like the whole care package. I am a games athlete. Forever, you will be stamped into the history book of CrossFit
Yeah.
Games as a games
You're on
athlete
a
in whatever
Wikipedia page
year.
somewhere.
Yep, and we're good to go. And for some, and nothing wrong with that. Some people, they do that for semifinals. They're like, I just want to make it to semifinals. I punch my ticket. I'm just there to have a giggle. I'm there to enjoy
Right.
myself, have fun, and throw down.
Absolutely.
And that they don't really want much more than that. And that's there's room if you're good enough. There's room
Right.
for that in the sport for sure.
Well, there's room for it. So, and I cannot remember the account specifically that I heard this on, but it was such a great term. So long as CrossFit wants to remain a backyard sport, there is room, right? Talk about a kick to the shins.
Well, but I mean, that's part of the conversation we're having, right? If the judging standards and the movement standards and everything like that can't be followed to a T, stuff falls through the cracks. I still remember this was the biggest joke of a thing, and CrossFit will never live it down ever because the internet never forgets, and
Right.
people still comment. So there was in 2018
Yep.
handstand push-up workout where it had the really weird fucking standard, the one that took Jacob Hepner out of it because he's got
Yeah.
absurdly long forearms.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Brooke Wells shot her video. It was shot with a potato, like pixelated as fuck, and like 40 feet away.
Yeah.
It was ridiculous.
Yeah.
And so you couldn't see the box on the like the where her hands had to be on the floor, and you couldn't see
Hmm.
the line on the wall. You were just watching her do handstand push-ups.
Yeah.
And multiple people like flagged it and was like, "Hey, you can't see the shit.
Yeah.
So this video is invalid. You can't see the standard. You can't see or prove that she's upholding the standard."
From
Again,
a submission
bro,
standpoint, we call that a major violation.
exactly. Major penalty or an invalid video where your
Yes.
score just becomes zero.
Yes.
Um, and so, again, not take away from Brooke. She's a phenomenal athlete, infinitely fitter than me. All CrossFit responded was the official statement. I don't know if you remember this. The official statement was she showed the capacity to uphold the standard, so they kept her score as is. And then on to regionals, on to the games, and whatever else. And so every single time someone pokes, so like Andrew Hiller will poke
Yeah.
fun at Danny Spiegel for stuff, poke fun at, like, he's got his couple athletes that like he'll poke fun at.
Yeah.
And because consistently they give, there's an opportunity for him to. And he posted something about Danny Spiegel's quarterfinals event from the previous year, I think, where like her muscle ups weren't locked out,
Yeah.
like
She
an
never locked
improper
out in the muscle
lockout.
up.
No, did maybe one or two out of 30 that were proper, if we're
Yeah.
being honest.
Yeah.
And Hiller posted it. All the comments were like, "It's okay. She showed capacity." I'm like, the internet never forgets.
Yeah.
And so like it was the biggest joke of a thing. And the Brooke Wells example wasn't the only time they've done that, because they said a similar thing to Danny's video with the muscle ups. They gave her
Yeah.
a minor penalty, even
Yeah.
though 1/3 of her reps were no good. I don't know. It's
Well, and what's frustrating about that is it would be one thing if they were just shitty across the board
yeah.
at assessing and implementing penalties. And when I say
Mhm.
shitty, I mean not adherent in a
Yep.
strict manner. But they're not. It's
Mhm.
spotty. And
Sometimes they put athletes through the shredder. Like,
absolutely.
hey, I had 2 reps where like someone bumped my camera, and so I was like doing my double unders half out of frame, but you can still
Yeah,
see my body. But they were like, "Oh, can't see your whole body. Video's invalid. Fuck you."
exactly.
And they were like, "Well, there went my shot at semifinals." But then an athlete, and again, if we're being fully honest, I'm gonna call CrossFit out. If it's an athlete that's popular, an athlete that has a following,
Yeah.
you're good to go.
Well, so
Mostly.
that that is the way that it seems. And
Mm-hmm.
and Danny Spiegel as an example, Brooke Wells as an example, these are athletes who are incredibly popular
Yep.
despite whatever their capacity is, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
they are they have tremendous followings, and so you can see a correlation, not necessarily that this is a causally related thing, but you could see a
Right.
correlation between an inability to apply a consistent standard for judging, especially in video submissions, but also in real life, and the popularity of the athlete.
Mm-hmm.
And it makes you wonder. And the fact that, one of my favorite sayings is, if there's any doubt, there is no doubt. And so it, if it makes us wonder as a community at all about whether or not CrossFit is doing what they need to professionalize the sport and, level up their fucking, pro sport judging game, this tells us they're not there yet. And like,
Mm-hmm.
really, CrossFit is a backyard sport still.
Hmm.
And
It's yeah.
then people want to jump down like Fikowski and Steph Chung's throat and be like, you guys started the IPFL or whatever it is. Like, you know, where's the statement? Like,
Yeah.
are and maybe CrossFit as a brand can't host the games anymore. Like maybe the games need to die in order for the sport to be professionalized. Because right now, the the pinnacle of the sport is owned by a brand that is
Hmm.
owned by venture capitalists who are down a fuck ton of money from the last several years.
Yeah.
And they want to see a return. They want to see an ROI. And the people who own a stake in CrossFit don't do CrossFit. So they don't give a
Yep.
shit.
Right. Um, and I mean, I know like people will have all sorts of mixed opinions about Greg
Yeah.
Glassman. But that's what he, I mean, when we had the year of what the fuck in 2019,
Yeah.
that's what he was trying to do. He was like CrossFit will like essentially like be there for the games,
Yeah.
but it's everything else about the season was operated by outside parties. You had
Yeah.
sanctional events and it broadened the scoping. It gave athletes a lot more of a chance to make money as long as those events made money. But then you
Yeah.
had the Can East and Can West games that still owe people money, like prize money from
Oh, I know.
2021. They
Yeah.
still haven't paid those athletes, and those athletes probably won't ever get paid because they you know dug themselves a hole with how much it costs to run the event versus what they promise as a prize purse.
Right.
Um, and they did a little oopsie in their math there,
Well,
but
you know, Greg Glassman is nothing if not consistent. He's a rabid
yeah,
libertarian. And
yep,
his assertion, and this is why the affiliate community is set up the way it is,
mm-hmm,
the cream will rise to the top, right? What he means by that is the methodology works. It's not on CrossFit to franchise and administer the application of a methodology. Let the market sort out, he believes in capitalism in the sense that the people who do well financially are probably the people who are doing well methodologically.
yes,
And he believes that so much that he was willing to basically cut off the limb that is the CrossFit Games in order to focus on undercutting Big Soda and fighting a legal battle against the NSCA and all that stuff. And whether you disagree with him or not, he's always been consistent and held steadfast.
mm-hmm,
But as we said earlier, anytime you introduce money, shit gets complicated. There's
yep,
a lot more money involved at the top at CrossFit nowadays.
very much
And
so.
it's, I think, maybe it is this simple and maybe unless I'd love to have someone who listens to this come back and be like, Sam, you're an idiot, and like, let's talk about that. But like, maybe the games needs to die. Like the CrossFit Games, as we know it, needs to die. CrossFit.com cannot run the CrossFit Games. It's got to be an independent third party, which is what Greg was trying to do. He just doesn't care about the fact that markets sorting themselves out are very fucking messy. And,
Mm,
the cream usually always does rise to the top, but there's a lot of people who take advantage on the way up and insert Can East and Can West games.
yep,
Yeah.
yeah. I think that's an interesting contention that the games needs to die because I mean, when 2019 happened, everyone lost their minds.
Of course they did.
Everyone's like, I'm not doing the open anymore. I was like, right, because we all had such a shot at going to the games, and until the system, I was going to the games, and then the
Yeah.
system changed, and now I
Yeah.
can't go to the games, so
This
I'm
is
not
the
going to do
thing
it.
that
Yeah,
knocked you out of
this
contention.
this was the one. Fucking hell, that sent me is when everyone's like, nope, not doing the open. Why? Well, the season doesn't make sense. I'm like, you don't have to follow the fucking season. Like,
Yeah. Uh,
you're like, oh,
but so when I think of, but when I think about like the bigger thing, like in any other sport, this would be a massive fucking conflict of interest
yeah,
where a brand that is financially incentivized controls who goes to the highest level of competition? Like, if Nike controlled who went to the fucking USA Nationals for gymnastics, that'd be a problem.
Yeah. Yeah. Guess what? Oh, weird. The entire gymnastics team is all Nike sponsored athletes. Strange.
Bonkers, right?
Yeah. Weird.
Yeah.
Oh,
But even more
yeah.
so, like, if if you can imagine an instance where Simone Biles, you know, uh, was an up and comer who had a fantastic Instagram following, like,
Mhm.
would she be incentivized to make an appearance if Nike was, in a position to take a financial advantage of that?
Yeah.
I don't know. Money
We're that
complicates
we're
shit.
yeah. So we're that again got derailed from our original. Well, kind of on track of our original thing, just down the competition side of things. But
Wow.
long story short,
Full range of motion.
hold your athletes accountable.
Lock your
A
elbows in.
full a full squat is your hip crease going below your knee joint. The best way
Yeah.
to think about it is, I remember that this is another Glassman. If I put a marble
Yep.
at the top of your knee, it should roll down towards your hip. It shouldn't
Mm,
roll off the front of your knee.
yeah.
And those of you guys who are like, "Oh, I have big quads," then squat lower.
Squat lower.
Squat lower.
You won't
That's it.
get less fit.
You won't. You'll get more fit.
Literally,
You can
scientifically more fit.
literally, you will get more fit. It again, you don't utilize, and this is a physiological thing. You don't utilize like all of your musculature of your lower half,
Yeah.
quads, hamstrings, glutes, the whole thing, until you get below parallel.
Yeah.
If you stop at parallel or higher, you are not like activating, bringing together, utilizing all of your musculature. The more musculature you use, sit down for this one, the more muscle you build.
Well, and not to mention the fact that most often injuries, let's even if we're going to limit our
Ooh, I
discussion to
like,
lower
yeah, yeah.
extremities,
Mm,
injuries happen in ranges of motion typically that you are
yeah.
not trained in.
You're not strong in. Like yeah, that's basically it. If you always squat to that, again, you're always above parallel.
Yeah.
As soon as you catch a heavy squat clean and it pushes your butt lower,
Yeah.
you're gonna hurt something.
Yeah.
You want to know why? Because none of your muscles know how to brace or move or stay stable in that range of motion anymore.
Absolutely. We may or may not feel really, really strongly about this. Well,
I
six
feel
one
so.
way, half
Oh, it
dozen the
makes
other.
me so angry.
Anyway, we've veered severely off topic. However, I think this was an important discussion
Yeah,
for a bunch of different reasons. We can come back to bits and portions of this. And if anyone's out there and you're listening to this, you disagree, like, leave a comment and tell
yeah.
us if you
Let
agree
us
or
know.
disagree, please. Like,
Let us know.
I think it'd be really interesting for someone to be like, you're a bunch of jabronis and here's why. So bring it on.
Bring it on. I like getting feisty. I've just been waiting to go on a full rant. This was just like a fraction. This isn't even my final form yet.
I knew that was coming in there somewhere.
Oh, I think a cool. This is like down the road, but I think this would be a cool. I know that we don't talk competition much, like competition in CrossFit, because that's not what we do, and we're very much so focused on the
Yeah,
99.99999% of people that aren't CrossFit Games athletes.
literally
However,
three nines.
yeah, when the games events get released, I think it'd be cool to do like a little program and analysis, because we talk about variance a
Ooh,
lot. We talk about variance a lot and like all the fun stuff. If we could like sit down and be like, all right, Boz, what you got for us?
crack them up.
And yeah, and chat through it. And I think that would be a cool thing because, let's be honest, people like the games. It's fun to watch. I
Mm-hmm.
enjoy watching it.
Absolutely.
And so, but as you're watching it, maybe not everybody understands the programming, like that event's dumb, this is stupid, I don't like that one. Or on the flip side, you've got people at your affiliate, whether deservedly or not, is like, you know what, I'm gonna try some games events. Sounds great.
Yeah.
We did the last year at Tilt. We had a fun time. We like it was a Friday. We canceled the evening classes, so the 4:30 and 5:30 we canceled.
Okay.
We had people rock up at like about 5.
Right.
because there was a games event on at like 7 or
You did it
7:30
live and in
p.m.
person.
So yeah, so with that event, we were like, okay, we don't know all the events, but we're gonna do the event and
Whatever
then
this one
watch
is.
and whatever it is, and we're gonna watch the event after. And we're like,
Woof.
we'll bring food, drinks, but we'll have fun, little viewing party at the gym. It's gonna be great. It did the event that we were gonna watch was the wall facing handstand push up one with the Echo bike, and we're like,
Yes.
well, we can't quite do that one. Just we only have 2 Echo bikes, and people would be fighting over who gets the Echo bike or not, either because they want to get fucked up or they don't want to get fucked up. And that handstand push-up standard, we were like, like we have to learn people have to learn a brand new movement, and
What's so hard?
so
Cartwheel up onto the wall. Keep your hollow
yeah,
position.
no, you had to wall walk your way up,
Oh, you had to
but
wall
like up
walk.
a
Oh, fuck
deficit.
that.
Yeah, you had to like wall walk up, and then it was on like a deficit thing. Your head
Already, I
had to
don't
hit a
like
certain
this.
tape line. Yeah, it was a weird standard.
Anyway.
Anyways, so we did the event that was the running and shoulder to overhead AMRAP. It was like the 3 rounds. It was like an 800-meter run, and then max shoulder to overhead at a certain load,
Right.
and then a shorter AMRAP, shorter run, shoulder to overhead, shorter AMRAP of shorter run, shoulder overhead. So it's
Like
just
that.
3 rounds with like a rest in between.
Yeah.
So we adjusted the run distance for our affiliate members so that they would be able to get some shoulder to overhead in.
Yeah.
We set up we like had people, like some people are like, if you're comfortable power cleaning, whatever your weight is from the floor, roll with
Yeah.
it. If not, we can rock and roll from a rack. And we had people set up their bars, and we warmed up, we let it through a thing, and then all of us went and did it. And that was a ton of fun, man. We were like, it gave everyone a chance to like, I just did a games event, even though they
Right.
adjusted, because I'm pretty sure the shoulder to overhead load was, I
Stupid.
think if I'm not mistaken, I think it was 315 to 25 or something like that. And it was like AMRAP shoulder to overhead after like an 800 to 600 and 400-meter run in a certain time frame.
Right.
So obviously no one was doing 315 at our gym.
Right.
I was like, adjust to a load that you could do like 2 or 3 unbroken, because
Yeah.
at the games they're only allowed to do singles. You could do a single, you had to drop it back onto the blocks and then
Wow.
re-rack it. Yeah, it was quite the standard. I wasn't mad at it, but it was quite the standard. And so I was like, pick a weight that you could do like 2 or 3, should be heavy. But let's jam out. And so people were picking appropriate loads for them.
Yep.
We did the run, came in, shoulder to overhead. Wow, we're fucked up. Rest's already done. God damn it. Out we go again. Like, it was so much fun. We had a blast. Music was up. Bay door was open. Life was good. And then people, sat down, had some food and some drink. We watched a games event, chatted. It was a great time. So that kind of stuff is fun to do in an affiliate.
Yeah.
But it's like sometimes breaking down that programming, like,
Yeah.
it's also hard to understand, okay, this is the intended stimulus.
Mm.
And again, if we're talking pure CrossFit, program for the best, scale for the rest,
Yep.
what's the stimulus going to be for those games athletes? And how can I take that, drop it down, and extrapolate it out across my membership if you want to do something like that?
Yeah.
So you have to have a pretty good understanding of programming. So I thought that once we get there, it'll be August, right? I think first week of August is usually
First
the
week of
games.
August. Yep.
Okay. So once we get there, a couple months, do like a little programming analysis, because we're both nerds. So that episode will be at least 4 hours long.
Absolutely. Yes. I vote yes.
Okay. Sick.
Oh.
Book it.
Good.
Boom.
Sold. All right. Well, we've veered hard to the left on this one, which is fine. But if you have issues with things that we said, please let us know. It gives us fodder for discussion. We like to have discussion.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll come back next week, and who the heck knows what we'll end up talking about next week. We always have plans, and then
we don't know.
No. And then we light them on fire.
I literally texted Sam this morning.
This morning
at 4:30.
Last night.
Was last night?
No,
okay.
No, it was this morning when you got back to me.
Okay. Okay. So last night Ted was like, "Hey, what are we doing a podcast about?" And he was like, "It's a great fucking question." So he was like, "How about," like, he had texted me after I had gone to sleep, and he was like,
range of motion.
off we go. Yeah, let's like range of motion. I was like, sick, do it, done.
Yeah.
And that's how we make our decisions.
Yeah.
But
fast and loose.
that's it. It's the way to do it.
Well, stick along for the ride, everybody. Come back next week. We'll do something different. Kevin, have a great rest of your day, sir.
You as well.
And everybody, we'll talk to you soon. Peace.